Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to
My Nerd World.
So are we getting new music later this year and then some? Sounds of the Universe, the 12-inch singles, got released. New interview with Dave Bascom of Music for the Masses fame, and your listener feedback. Welcome to Depeche Mode, the podcast here on My Nerd World. I am your host, Jon Justice, and thank you for checking out another episode. So there is not a lot going on apart from the tour continuing, which is a big deal, of course, especially for those that are able to go and check out the tour. I can't wait until the band returns to the States, as I've talked about many times, going to see them in November. And it's still so much fun to go online on the social networking, whether it's X or whether it's on TikTok or Instagram, and see the photos posted, the comments, and videos of those that are attending the shows overseas right now. It's just such an exciting time whenever the band's on tour, but this time being as special as it is, it's a lot of fun just as a fan to see other fans getting together with people and attending these shows. And it seems as if the shows themselves are maintaining the same level of energy as the tour rolls along. So in terms of news, there isn't anything else to report this week except for this. So I'm hearing a bit of word, and this is spinning off of what I talked about last week in the middle of going through a random article that I had found. I was able to stumble across a quote from Anton Corbijn and how he was remastering the original short film Strange from the Music for the Masses era for a Blu-ray release. Well, I'm hearing word that this could potentially be part of a larger package, which makes more sense to me. We didn't get a box set for Memento Mori, and I can't help but wonder if we didn't even get a deluxe release in the same vein that we had received from Spirit and Delta Machine, just with extra music and B-sides with those releases and the remixes that came out with Spirit. I can't help but wonder if the record label was simply playing it safe, not knowing how popular Memento Mori was going to be. And it would make sense with it being 6 years since the band's last release. I doubt that anybody with the record label has a really good understanding of the fandom the way that you do, the way that I do, and just how I think they know how rabid we are, but at the same time, probably concerned, especially off of Spirit, which wasn't as well received. And Delta Machine certainly wasn't either, comparatively speaking to what we got with Memento Mori. So I'm wondering if the studio was sort of hedging their bets a bit by releasing the album just as it is, even with the promotion around it. I think a lot of us felt that while there was some interesting potential and some interesting things done with the promotion, it kind of fell flat on a number of levels. And with the deluxe edition, we didn't really get anything. We didn't get anything new in terms of music or any physical releases either. So all of this is to say that I'm beginning to understand a little bit better why the promotion of Memento Mori has been what it is. However, as you know, and as I know, this has been a massive success for this band. This album is a huge success. One of the most well-received, certainly since Ultra. Arguably, for me, I feel like it's one of their best releases since Songs of Faith and Devotion. The tour continues to roll along and sell out shows all across the globe. And I imagine that the record label at this point in time is realizing, all right, we got to capitalize on this. So, from what I'm hearing is this could be not just a Blu-ray release of Strange, the short film from Music for the Masses, but potentially it along with Strange 2 from the Violator time period, and then it in its entirety wrapped up in a box set for Memento Mori, which would include those 4 fully produced tracks from Memento Mori that we have yet to hear yet. We know that Martin Gore had mentioned one song given in a title, Life 2.0, that we would be getting later on this year. What I'm hearing is that this could be the potential of a box set that would include everything that I just mentioned, or at a bare minimum, a box set for Memento Mori, and then a subsequent release of Strange and Strange 2. Probably timed around the holidays, which would make the most sense. But when you look at the calendar, we're past halfway through this year. And I don't know about you, but these first 8 months have, 7 now into 8, have absolutely flown by. So before you know it, we're going to be into the holiday season. I imagine that we'll be getting some announcements very soon. By the time that the band returns stateside back here to America, I would venture a guess, and this is my speculation based off of what I'm hearing about potential releases for later on this year. I would imagine as they get back to the U.S., there will be some announcements made of some new physical releases that we can get our hands on, whether it's a box set that contains all these things together or a Memento Mori box set specifically that has these 4 tracks, along with a secondary release that includes Strange and Strange 2. Either way, I'm really excited. All of those things I'd love to get my hands on, even if we just got the release of Strange based off of the quote, which is the most official thing that I can share. Anton Corbijn saying that he was remastering the Blu-ray based off of the Q&A that was being done. It would make sense that he would only mention that one. But that being said, if he's remastering one, why not go ahead and remaster both? I was doing a bit of a Google search too, just to see if there was anything that had been put out beyond what I had found and what I had been hearing, sort of secondary. And there are DVDs available for Strange and Strange 2 that people... Actually, it was specifically Strange 2. Strange is... I was only able to find the old VHS available for sale, and I would even question the quality of what that would be. I still have mine. I haven't looked at the quality of the tape, but those do not last forever. But several people had taken the Laserdisc release of Strange 2 and transferred it over to DVD. And it was only like $15. I was a stone's throw away from purchasing it, but then I just was like, no, you know what? It's been a long time since I've watched that. I can watch most of this stuff on YouTube if I really, really need to. Let me save my money for later in the year when this potentially gets released officially. Either way, it's exciting speculation during a time when we're not getting any news beyond the tour rolling on. The one bit of news item officially that I do have to share with you, though. Sounds of the Universe, the 12-inch singles got released this week. Details, the synth pop legends continues their series of deluxe box sets, collecting 12 inches with a new 7 LP set centered around the singles released off of the 2009 album, Wrong. 2009 album, which includes Wrong, Peace, and the double A side of Fragile Tension and Hole to Feed. Sounds of the Universe, and I've done this in a podcast a while back, is such an anomaly in the releases post Alan Wilder. It really is, in my opinion, the biggest deviation in their sound since Songs of Faith and Devotion, and really is still set apart from everything. I mean, including Memento Mori. I don't think you could pick 2 albums that sound so dramatically different from one another. Sounds of the Universe, to me, really differentiates itself just with its embrace of electronics over what we had been hearing from Ultra. Exciter, it's a bit of a natural progression, leaning into what we would get, when it comes to, before that with Playing the Angel. I'm getting my releases crossed over here. But certainly it was a deviation from more of that raw sound that we were getting with, I'm getting this right. All my years start running together. Yeah, so you get from the raw sound of Playing the Angel and then moving into Sounds of the Universe. And if you've watched the documentaries for Sound of the Universe, Martin's obsession with buying the old analog synths, while it had that sort of analog aesthetic to it, they did really embrace the electronics on that particular album. I like Sounds of the Universe. It's funny because the double A side of Fragile Tension and Hole to Feed are 2 songs are probably 2 of my least favorite on that particular album. Hole to Feed being the one that I really I teeter close to saying I dislike Hole to Feed. On occasion when I hear it, it'll hit the right note and I'll listen to it, but usually that's a skip for me. Fragile Tension's an interesting track. That's one of those ones where I understand what they were going for, but it never quite got there. Be that as it may, back to my original point. Sounds of the Universe is a definitely an anomaly in the band's releases since Alan Wilder left. But there's some classic tracks on that. I love Perfect. I love In Sympathy. I think Corrupt is a fantastic song as well. Wrong is incredibly strong. It's a good album. I enjoyed that album at its release, even though I think its highs were high, Perfect as well, and its lows, like Hold to Feed, were really low. The video completely, while the song itself I thought was passable, when I saw the video, that has to be, in my opinion, one of the worst videos that the band has ever done. The whole tongue kissing and all that, I watched it one time, I'm like, what the hell am I watching? And I just completely moved on from it. And I'm going to move on from this rambling. Depeche Mode producer David Bascom talks about Depeche Mode's 1987 album Music for the Masses. In April of 2020, a 3-part video interview with Dave Bascom was released on Von George's YouTube channel. A fun watch if you've never watched Von George. I dig his interviews. And his reviews on albums, too. They're quite fun. This series seems to have slipped under the radar with many Depeche Mode fans. So, the article that I found here, they decided to unearth it, and you can watch the 3 parts at the end of this particular article. And my apologies for not... No, oh, it was Sideline. That's right. Sorry, I didn't grab the outlet that it was from. It was Sideline. Von George is a music producer, artist development coach, and a reviewer of piano, keyboard, and synth artistes. In the interview, Dave Bascom, a renowned producer and engineer, discusses his work on Music for the Masses. The interview is packed with interesting details and a surprising number of alarm sounds. You'll understand why Sideline mentioned that once you go and watch the video. All in all, it is a very interesting interview. Dave Bascom also worked with Tears for Fears, Echo and the Bunnymen, Peter Gabriel on the album So, Human League, Erasure, and many more. Of course, Music for the Masses, the 6th studio album, released September 28th, 1987 by Mute Records. Daniel Miller, who had co-produced Depeche Mode's previous album, decided to step back from production duties for this album due to the increased tension experienced during the recording of Black Celebration. With Miller's blessing, Alan Wilder co-produced the album with David Bascom, which I think says a lot as to why Music for the Masses sounds as good as it does. So, if you haven't checked out Von George and his channel, you can find this interview also on sideline.com as well. But you can find his channel up on YouTube. Definitely a fun watch. And his commentary and reviews of Memento Mori are a must-watch as well. So go and check that out. All right, now we move over to your listener feedback this week. Some of you took my 30-second 10-song challenge and have sent it to me accordingly. I appreciate that. talkshownerd@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment up on YouTube. My friend, you're all friends of the show, my friend Matt sent me a couple messages with regard to last week's episode. Strange remastered on Blu-ray would be incredible. I watched it every single day for at least a year when it first came out. Just worshipped it. Now, for 30 seconds and 10 songs, here is Matt's list. Shake the Disease, Stripped, Fly on the Windscreen, I sense a theme. Enjoy the Silence, Behind the Wheel, Everything Counts, Black Celebration, Here is the House, World in My Eyes, and Blasphemous Rumors. Listen, you really can't go wrong with all these lists. I just think it's fun. It's harder than you think, because inevitably you'll do what I did, and you do your 10 songs in 30 seconds, and then you go, darn it, I missed one. Thank you, Matt, as always. I approve, and I approve of all these lists. All right, Stephanie writes this. I accepted the challenge, and here are my 10 songs in 30 seconds. The order has nothing to do with the placement. That's it from me. Hope you are doing well. Love from the rainy Baltic coast, Stephanie. Hers were Enjoy the Silence, Sister of Night, Home, Never Let Me Down Again, Always You, Personal Jesus, Only When I Lose Myself, Mercy in You, Strange Love, and Condemnation. Arguably the most eclectic of the 10 songs that I received from you, the listener to this show. So thank you, Stephanie. That is rather interesting. I can almost do a podcast just sort of breaking down individuals' picks on these and the rationale why, but that was a fun one. All right, and then lastly on the 32nd to top 10 desert island list, Danielle Monet writes, "Here is my list. I was surprised to see so many old tracks, but they are the ones I go back to and give in again and again." See what I did there? I did. So here's her 10. Leave in Silence, Love in Itself, Stories of Old, Fly on the Windscreen, Strange Love, Enjoy the Silence, In Your Room, Precious, Wrong, and Ghosts Again. Nice. I was happy to see Ghosts get another mention in there. Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate it. And thank you to Stephanie and to Matt as well for playing along. All right, let's move along. More listener feedback. This comes from Tanya Ham. I just had a chance to listen to this episode and found myself smiling and nodding, as I often do, but as you spoke about songs of faith and devotion and the emotions of hearing it for the first time, it felt like an eternity since we'd had any new music at that point. We were so spoiled and had no idea, LOL. And I remember devouring all the magazines with the new Dave on the covers and the MTV coverage around the time. It was so different, but also so intriguing. I would lay in bed at night in the dark with my headphones on and listen to it endlessly. 30 years later, as you say, those songs have zero burn for me. Thank you for the article about In Your Room. Always in my top 5 favorite songs. I know the Zephyr mix gets flack from many fans, but I actually love it. I enjoy it too. But then again, Garbage is my second favorite band. Not a bad choice. So I'm sure Butch Vig's influence doesn't hurt. You're spot on with your description. Very cinematic and full. Thanks again for another great pod and all you do. 59 more days until I see the lads in Dallas. Yeah, I haven't done an official count on when I'm seeing them in November with Matt. I should probably go and do that. You know, it's interesting. I was just thinking back to Sounds in the Universe. That was a really important time for me because that around the release of that album was when I had my heart attack and my first open heart surgery. And I remember watching the live performance for... Sorry, I had a microphone issue there for just a second. The live recorded for live performance that they did, and I can't remember what show they did it on, but that was the first time I actually had a chance to hear Wrong. I also remember listening to the demos of a few of the songs in the hospital while I was recovering. So I had Fragile Tension and Comeback. I had those demos got leaked. I'm trying to think if there were any more. Oh, there was a Holtefeed demo too, and they were all very different than what we ended up getting on the album, which is really interesting now that I think about it, because the demos were actually even different than the demos that were released with the Sounds of the Universe box set. And I've never heard the backstory as to why that was. So let me back up again just really quick, and then I'll get to more listener feedback. So again, I ended up in the hospital, had my open heart surgery to fix my bicuspid heart valve and the aneurysm that I had with a graft. And going into the hospital, there was some leaked songs, and those leaked songs were demos. When I was in recovery, and this was shortly before I went home, was when they finally released Wrong. So I remember the first time I actually heard the full song, I was in the hospital. I can actually picture myself there right now. But then when the box set got released, I remember, oh, hey, these are the demos, and they were different. If anybody has the backstory on that, if they could let me know, I'd appreciate it. Because I don't think I've ever addressed that on a podcast. So it's really bizarre. There were actually 2 different demo versions, and they were very distinct. I could probably track them down, but I think they're on an old Mac that's in the garage somewhere, because I don't believe I ever transferred them over to a disc at any point in time, because I was listening to MP3s that had been downloaded at the time. But yeah, I remember getting home and going through the recovery in anticipation of that album coming out, of Sounds of the Universe coming out. And when the album finally did come out, I was on the backside of my recovery from that surgery. And, once again, it was just a time in my life when Depeche Mode played a huge role in sort of helping me through a difficult period of time. And that album being what it is, more of an optimistic Depeche Mode than what we'd seen in the past. Whereas you had sort of the minimalist of Exciter, you had sort of a raw sound of what you got with, playing the Angel, the sound of Sounds of the Universe just, was more uplifting than what we'd gotten from them in a long time. And that was really helpful, if I can talk, for me at that moment in time. All right, let's get back into listener feedback. David Theofolt writes, "So, my wife left this morning with my daughter to drive her back to Boise, Idaho for her junior year in college at Boise State. That's got to be difficult. I'm definitely taking this time while my wife is gone to lay out by the pool with a couple of hazies to listen to Depeche Mode as loud as I can. I'm just lounging around and listening to my Spotify playlist that I created called Depeche Mode From the Start to... ... which is all of my favorite songs from album number 1 to Memento Mori. And I'm wondering and hoping that people that are true DM fans are appreciating what we are experiencing. This is truly a phenomenal band, and with Memento Mori, I'm starting to realize that this might be the best band of all time. Yes, I'm a little biased, but come on. After all this time, and then Memento Mori comes out, there is not another band that I can think of that has come out with something this good as Memento Mori after all these years together. All of us devotees need to appreciate what we have with DM and know when we all die, this is truly a special time of music to enjoy and appreciate greatness. Thank you, John, for the years of commitment and dedication to this band. You are a true fan and respected. Oh, thank you, David, very much. And I hope you enjoy that alone time. I know that I do. If you're like me, you get really excited for the alone time when the family's out of town, and then in a very short period of time, you can't wait for everybody to get back. At least that's how it is for moi. All right, let's get back to more listener feedback. Babak writes, last time I wrote you, I was on, it was to break that Richard Butler was part of the writing team for Memento Mori. Ever since, I've been enjoying every one of your podcasts and following you on Twitter. Thank you. At the My Nerd World. Thanks for following me back at my secret arcade handle. I'm a writer and musician, too, very much influenced by Depeche Mode. Perhaps I've missed it in one of your episodes, but have you known about the Brian Griffin DM book coming out? He's DM's original photographer, and his book will shed more light on the early days of DM. Take care, Babak. Yeah, you know what? I haven't talked about it. I have been aware of it, and I do have it sort of on a side list of things to get to eventually, and that is the publications around Depeche Mode. So, yes, I had heard about it. I just had not brought it up on the show, but thank you for reminding me, and it gives me a bit of an inspiration to cover it soon on the show as well. All right, let's go to Mike, also known as DJ Sparkle from San Francisco. Hi, John. I've been listening to your show for a few months since before Memento Mori dropped. At that point in time, you had the album, but nobody else did. I know. I need to ask my friend if I can tell that story. I don't think I have. No, I haven't. No, I know that I haven't. One of these days, I'll have to tell you the story about how I got a copy of the album. I won't now. I know he listens to the show, and I don't, or she. And he's he's probably going, don't say it, don't say it. It really is a fun story about how I got it, though. Anyway, I'm really enjoying your show, and I love the community that it creates. I had actually meant to write you regarding your Gothic connection the other week. Ah, yes, my failed Memento Mori is a goth masterpiece. I was listening while in the shower, then promptly forgot to write. Apologies. I don't apologize. You were in the shower. In my opinion, you're partially right. Depeche Mode has always had a strong connection with the goth industrial community. I've been involved in the community since about 94 here in San Francisco. The community is going strong, and we have a Depeche Mode theme nights a couple of times a month at Cat Club or DNA Lounge. The goth community never left. It just isn't in mainstream view like it was in the 80s and 90s. But I still see young kids dressed in to the nines in goth fashion lately, so it's coming back, I think. Check your local Hot Topic, right? Yeah. Anyways, I wanted to say that the interconnection between the goth and industrial community, I'm glad you mentioned that because I did not, and Depeche Mode is interwoven. Despite the last few albums not really having much goth, true, DM is part of the community. Much like the latter, solo Peter Murphy stuff is nothing like Bauhaus, but it's still something you will hear at a goth club. So funny you mentioned that because I have been on a solo Peter Murphy kick. Specifically, Crystal Wrists is one of my... I just absolutely love that song. Whenever I make a mountain bike, a riding playlist, I always include that track because it's just such a... I don't use the term very often, but Crystal Wrists by Peter Murphy is an absolute banger. Memento Mori, he goes on to say, is more classic, though. So I know what you mean. It's back to basics, but they never left. It's hard to say because The Cure do not consider themselves goth per se, and they are almost the ultimate goth band, LOL. I enjoy everything I hear on your show, and I bought the first of your sci-fi series a couple of days ago via Amazon. Thank you very much. I'm a huge Star Trek and Doctor Who and Star Wars nerd who's about to take a long trip. This will be my reading material. Oh, man, I really hope you enjoy it. First novels are always a little hard, right? Seeing that they're your first novels. That EMBARK Book 1 has gone through several different edits to clean it up from its original version, which is tucked away. But I really hope you enjoyed that book one. Thanks for picking it up. I appreciate it. And that would be Mike, also known as DJ Sparkle from San Francisco. He also says that if you end up reading this on the air, some musical recommendations, some of the newer 2000s goth electro synth pop bands to try out. VNV Nation, Covenant, Cold Cave, Wolfsheim, Apop Dejima Berserk, butchered that name, Baborn Betten, and Kai the Vez. So there you go. Thank you, Mike, for the kind words and for the email. I really do appreciate it. And lastly, Jason writes, Strange coming to Blu-ray. Wow, that was a shocker to hear on your podcast. One of the disappointments with the various DVD release of videos, including the last one you mentioned a few shows ago, was the exclusion of the extended version of the Never Let Me Down Again video. I hope they bundle Strange 2 with it as a complete set. And like I said, that's the rumor that I'm hearing. I was also interested to hear the rundown of DM's best songs. I was lazing in the garden one Sunday afternoon a few weeks ago listening to Exciter. I've come to realize some of DM's albums suit certain situations, and Exciter is one of those for a lazy day or an evening chilling out. And this is probably not my only controversial comment in this email, an album I prefer to Ultra. I was putting together my favorite DM tracks in my head, and shock horror, Enjoy the Silence did not make my top 10, 20, or 25 tracks. Wow. Before your listeners turn up outside my house with flaming torches and pitchforks. I'm not saying it's a bad song. It really isn't far from it. It's a beautifully crafted song with great lyrics. And the one song I really look forward to live, apart from Gordino's Moog noodling in the extended instrumental break. But I find myself reaching out to hear other DM songs before it when looking to play something. I don't know if it's due to the overexposure of the song in the UK, as if a DM song is ever played on TV or the radio. It's usually Enjoy the Silence. In any case, if you're wondering, World in My Eyes is always top. Those also in my top 10 are Here's the House. Yes. Corrupt. Going Backwards. Nice love for Going Backwards. I love that song. Dangerous. Get Right With Me, Walking in My Shoes. I Want It All, Before We Drowned. And Sacred. Regards, Jason. That's a nice list. Sacred getting a mention, too, is pretty top-notch as well. So thank you for that. And thank you to everybody who wrote in this week. You are all friends of the show. I don't think I've ever explained this. I guess I probably should. On my radio show that I do Monday through Friday, because I talk about controversial things, and not everybody agrees with me, which is fine. It wouldn't be any fun if you did agree with everything that I said. I'm rather opinionated on that show. I have two different versions of people that listen to my Monday through Friday weekly show. I have friends of the show, those who listen to the show and like me, and then I have fans of the show. Those are individuals who listen to the show and don't like me. And I have More of those than you would expect. It's very weird being in radio. I don't recommend it. Thank you so much to everybody for checking out this week's episode, though. Before I let you go, as always, I want to appeal to you to support My Nerd World. And if this happens to be one of the first times that you're listening to the podcast and you like to read and you enjoy science fiction, I know that's a bit of a deviation from Depeche Mode. You don't typically put Depeche Mode and sci-fi together. However, I kind of did. I hope you will check out my science fiction space opera series. It is set in the future, 2172, where air and space flight culture has replaced car culture. It was inspired in part by Depeche Mode. Life in the so-called space age, probably the closest thing they get to science fiction. The world we live in, life in general. Depeche Mode does play a large part in the underlying themes of the story. The main character himself is a massive Depeche Mode fan at a time when the music of the 80s through the 2000s is nostalgic and popular among the characters of the story. That does feature references in the books to your favorite band, both direct and indirect, while telling an exciting space opera saga. So I hope you'll take a moment, head on over to Amazon.com or to mynerdworld.net and pick up book 1 in the series if you haven't already. If you have picked up book 1 and you enjoyed it, and I hope you did, I hope you'll go and check out the rest of the series. 7 books in all, available in ebook, hardcover, paperback, and audiobook. Written for adults, but it's suitable for kids 11 and up. It's got a little bit of romance in it and action, no language, nothing explicit. Book 1 is described as follows. As Earth faces its end, the fight to rule the galaxy begins. The stars are within reach. Rival megacorporations D-Corp and Enercon have made interstellar travel possible and spaceflight available to all humanity. But exploration quickly becomes a matter of survival. When pilot Keith Amaro receives a cryptic message from her father, an aerospace engineer who died 1 year earlier, unaware that a massive industrial accident is about to set off an apocalyptic chain of events, fellow flyer Taft Guardia eagerly agrees to help her investigate. As chaos breaks out amid the global evacuation, the ruthless Sin Argam of D-Corp attempts to exploit the disaster and gain control. Meanwhile, Taft and Keitha make a shocking discovery that may hold the key to saving humanity from the tyranny of D-Corp's evil leader. Check out this fast-paced and action-packed space opera epic. Book 1 in ebook is available for just 99 cents, and the hardcover and the paperback are priced to sell. I make a little bit of profit on it, but not much, because I want to be able to have people afford to buy the books, and I know everybody's money is tight right now. So, paperback, hardcover, audiobook, and ebook. Amazon.com, search for Jon, Jon Justice, and mynerdworld.net. One more request before I let you go. If you're not following me on the socials, you can find me on Instagram under The Jon Justice and The My Nerd World. Specifically, though, if you're on TikTok, follow me on TikTok at The Jon Justice, at The Jon Justice on TikTok. I need a handful of more followers so I can start going live on TikTok. Right now I can't because I don't have my required 1,000 followers. So if you're on TikTok, look for me at The Jon Justice, Jon, and follow me. I do all pop culture stuff there. I do music, I do movies, talk about my books. So it's stuff up your alley if you enjoy this podcast. So follow me over on TikTok. And you can find me on X as well. I guess we got to say X now. At The My Nerd World. So thank you so much for checking out this week's episode. And I was a little bit more rambly this week than normal, but there wasn't a ton of news going on. And that's what I do on this show. I hope wherever you are happy, you're healthy, and that you're safe. And I'll be back again next week. Talk to you then, and I look forward to hearing from you. Leave a comment on YouTube or email me, talkshownerd@gmail.com.
Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to
My Nerd World.